This video is gonna be an attack on both my mental and physical well-being, but let's do it anyway. I'm going to combine over 200 video game characters into one ginormous Photoshop edit poster kind of thing. And thankfully, Aces is here to help us out. It has been quite a while since I did a character lineup. We've done Star Wars characters, movie characters in general, Marvel characters, but what about gaming characters? In order for this to work, I somehow have to make it more insane than the previous versions, so instead of 150, let's do 200 characters, which means I'm also gonna have to find and cut out 200 images. But anyway, first we need a list, so let's get to work. I found some places that listed some of the most popular games of all time, and from each I tried finding a main character or iconic character. For some I did add a few, like Mario for example. There's a bunch of different important ones. But the annoying thing was, some website didn't include the indie classics like Five Nights at Freddy's or Slender Man, so I tried including those as well. I might have missed some because I'm not a huge gamer person, but I tried my best. I did also add some mobile games like Angry Birds for example. Luckily, for a lot of them I could find PNG images, so that would save a lot of time, but still, this took me several hours to collect. If you're for some reason interested in the final list I have, feel free to pause the video and read it. Good luck. Before collecting everything else I need, let's first create the character lineup, where the nightmare truly begins. First, I had to sort out the characters to determine which are going to be in the front row and the second row and the back row. I didn't have full body images of all of them, so obviously some of them had to go in the back row. I kind of sorted them based on relevancy as well, but take that with a pinch of salt because some of them I just didn't have high resolution images for. I did make sure to put all the small and short characters in a group together so I could put them in the front row. Once all of them were finally sorted, it was time to begin the actual first row. It's pretty straightforward. I just made sure they're all about the same height compared to each other and kind of move some around to get the best result. They don't always fit together all that well, so it's kind of trial and error. This isn't actually the front row though, because those are going to be the small and short characters. This is actually the least boring thing to do. It's just kind of a big puzzle trying to make everything fit. But this next step, that's where it goes south. I quickly put in a simple ground image as a placeholder for later, but now is the time I'm gonna have to add shadows and highlights and all that sort of stuff to every single one of them. Okay, so basically every character has at least 2 layers. The first one is an ambient shadow layer, basically making sure they're accurately lit and accounting for the shadows created by characters standing close by. The second layer is a highlight layer. Similarly to previous versions I made, the main light will come again from behind, meaning they're all gonna need a nice rim light. Then finally, some images aren't neutral at all, so they need some manual adjusting to match the rest. This could be contrast, color, lighting, whatever. Before doing all of that though, after doing all the shadow layers, I replaced the ugly ground for a nice grassy one. I always went for the same kind of thing, so I thought this would nicely change it up, add some color to it. I also added some glow to all the light emitting elements like lightsabers, and it's very important that some characters are actually affected by this light, so I added some colored highlights to them as well. This looked very nice actually, made it much more cohesive also. I now started doing all those highlight layers I talked about. This genuinely started to hurt my hand because it's a bunch of micro movements that just repeat all over. Thankfully, it does look pretty nice. Something that will make this version a tad better than the other ones is I'm actually gonna try and fix some of the lighting directions of the characters so it all matches. I used to kind of just leave them as they were, adding highlights on top. It doesn't matter too much because in order to actually do this properly, you'd be spending about 2 years on it. First, a quick word from the sponsor of today, Aces. First of all, big thanks for this monster of a machine. Honestly, just owning something like this feels illegal. It's equipped with an NVIDIA RTX 4070, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, an Intel Core i9 processor. It's even got an MUX switch. All of that inside this little thing. How? And should you want to upgrade to 64 gigabytes, you can. Going somewhere? Worry not, because this thing lasts for ages. Unlike my laptop from high school. And has fast charging with a 50% battery at just 30 minutes. Whether you're a creator, designer, artist, programmer, this thing is just amazing for you. After using it for a bit on this project as well, I must say I am very impressed. Mostly I would say just a very satisfying experience. Particularly the Asus Lumina OLED screen. Besides its high resolution, I'm just a huge simp for OLED. It simply makes anything look twice as good instantly. If you'd like to have a look at this bad boy yourself, check the link down below on top. Thanks to Asus for this, I am a happy man. onto the editing. Time to bring some color into this using a sky. As usual, I'm using a very wide shot sunset sky, and using some coloring I made it look kind of cold on the left and nice and warm on the right. The movie one also had this split tone effect, so I thought why not do it again? It worked back then, so might as well do it now. Then to add some distance to the characters, I made sure to add a haze layer to the third and fourth row. Basically, the further away, the hazier it gets. It is also important that the haze's color matches the color of the duotone I just created. Nothing too difficult though. Now to turn 200 characters into 1000 characters, I'll use the same kind of crowd image. It's kind of cheating, I've been using it forever, but still. This one was based on the Star Wars one though, so I had to alter it a little bit to make it more accurate. I made it super wide and popped it into my work file. Now once again, I had to make sure their distance matches the rest. So using solid colors and masks, I covered them accordingly. This is definitely an artistic choice. If you zoom in, you'll notice it, but honestly, it's just for the idea. Though it is quite effective for the overall look, and that is what I care about most. It took me a second to complete, but finally it was starting to look like something. Time to begin working on the background. This is honestly just blending in each individual creature to kind of match the vibe. I didn't put in too much effort yet because I wasn't 100% sure how the background would affect them yet, but all of that will be fixed towards the end when everything else is in place. I must say, I was not happy with the way that top area looked at all. I couldn't tell why, maybe I just had been looking at it for too long. I stepped back for a while and then came back with a fresh eye to work on it once again. I didn't record any of this because there are such particular and random tiny things, I wouldn't even know where to begin explaining them. But it went from looking like this to this, which is a lot better in my opinion. The bright sunlight from behind really made the look of Rothello's look so much better. And the distance is kind of better now too. I still wouldn't say it's as good as the previous ones, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. We haven't added any background structures though, so I thought, well, here there are some cool ones. I placed them in their appropriate spots and blended them in there. Stuff like this always makes it look a lot fuller, which is kind of the whole idea of these assemblies. From here on out, it's really just the same stuff over and over, so I'm gonna reveal the final edit. Now looking back at the others, I must say, apart from this one having more characters, I don't like this one better in any other aspect. It has some cool things like the very intense coloring and the characters in the front, that's pretty nice. I would say it's a lot more game-ish, so in that regard it is actually pretty decent. But it's also a lot messier, many of the characters are just very extravagant I guess, so they're just all over the place. The others just feel a lot cleaner, it may just be the characters, I don't know. The new one is also a bit less hazy than the older ones, which makes it a bit more busy. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing as well, depends on your taste. I think my favorite one is still the Star Wars one. It's just classic, it's the first one I did, and it looks very cohesive. Even though the characters themselves aren't maybe perfectly done, I still just love the overall image so much better. Does that make this a failed attempt? No, definitely not. I still like the end product, and it's always fun to see where these kind of things go, but, you know, there is some room for improvement, potentially. Big thanks once again to Aces for sponsoring this video. Then I guess that's it for today. If you liked this video, make very sure to leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell not to miss a single video, and then I hope I'll see you in the next one.